Welcome back, boys. Another great week of fantasy action coming our way, and we had the trade deadline wrapping up. So, a whole bunch of news and information to bring to you guys this week. Nick, welcome back to the show. How are things going over there?
Things are going good. I know we have a lot to cover, so let's get right into it.
All right, our very first game we have this week, we had Francy Feast coming a little bit out of nowhere, given the season they have had to this point this year. They were able to get the Kiffin Award this week, however, with a massive 158 to 130 victory over the Cleveland Steamers. And also, just some really good news for this team is they were able to see Kyler Murray get back to the field. This was the first time he was back in nearly a year after he went out last year, week 14, with injury. That would keep him on the sidelines at this point, but not the greatest fantasy day out of him, but able to get his feet wet and able to get his real life team to a victory. So I'm sure they're happy with his performance, and hopefully that'll be a sign of more good things to come in the future. Bijan adding 20 behind that. He's had a really good year as a rookie this year. Mike Evans was really the star for this team. 28 points, able to find the end zone in a big victory over the Titans for the Bucks. And then the rest of this team was really aided by the two Niners players. San Francisco defense with 33 really just worked the Jaguars from the beginning on both sides of the ball. And George Kittle, as you can see, also able to contribute with 22 of his own. So they were good for the Kiffin War this week. We'll see if they're able to make a backdoor sneak out of the toilet bowl, but some much needed momentum for this team right now.
Yeah, we want to first and foremost congratulate Francie Feast. They really came to play this week. They're class act organization and they do things right over there. So we want to make sure that we give them their flowers as they took home the Kiffin Award this week. For us, kind of more the same old, injuries kind of killed us again. Taylor Heineke, our quarterback, filling in for Pat Mahomes this week. Made it to about halftime and he played like a series, maybe made it through like two series in the second half, and then he went out with injury. And then we were kind of up against the wall at that point. Looking at kind of the breakdown of the year so far, right now we're 2-0 when we haven't sustained an injury to the starting lineup, having two big wins against two playoff teams, 1-7, one getting one or more of our starters hurt. So that's an 80% clip so far this year where we're sustaining an injury. I am officially ready to dub this injured reserves 2.0, considering the fact that the final domino of the injured reserves that hasn't happened to me since the injured reserves happened this past week. Our kicker, who we actually ended up dropping on Sunday because it happened, Kaimi Fairbairn, landed on IR. So, yeah, just one of those years that we're ready to get over. I did quickly want to just shout out Rashad White, Jalen Warren, TJ Hawkinson, Deebo Samuel, all scored touchdowns in the 1 o'clock slate. But yeah, shout out Francie Feast. They came to play this week and really took it to us.
All right, our second matchup of the week, we had FaZe Kev also putting up a massive performance, 157 to 98 victory over the Pams as they improved to 5-5.
Yeah, so for FaZe Kev here, it starts with the running backs, Austin Eckler and Javonte Williams. Honestly, as you'll get the feel as we go through this video, anybody who had a Los Angeles Charger or a Detroit Lion was loving life in fantasy this week. Austin Eckler was one of those guys, putting up a nice 22 points. Javonte Williams, it's actually been really nice to see him start to, get the rock a little bit more these past couple weeks. Got 21 carries, 25 touches in total, 20 points in fantasy. Great day from him. Amon-Ra St. Brown, speaking of that Lions Chargers game, whopping 32 points, 156 yards receiving, a touchdown as he went absolutely nuclear. Also, shout out Chris Olave for coming back into our lives as he was able to kind of get it going when Jameis Winston took over. As he was able to see, a lot more downfield targets, and he was able to get going. So yeah, like Kev this week coming just within about a point of the Kiffin Award. A really great week for this team as they try to make a late season playoff push, and get their name in the race.
The flip side here for Pams, really just more of the same as they fall to 3-7 on the season, unable to even find triple digits on the week. And as you go through here, you're looking at their lineup, it was just really a mid-ass day from front to back. Ravens D was their best player, able to get nearly 20 points. The next highest scorer after that was Brandon Ayuk with 15. No one else over 15. And as you see, just a few too many single-digit points. Probably not even worth going through at this point. This team finds himself back tied for last place again with their namesake award for this week. So we'll be able to see if they're able to turn this around at all. History would indicate otherwise. All right, our third matchup of the week. We had WalllessPluto getting a big victory, 135 to 127 over Sticky Mistakes.
Yeah, for WalllessPluto, a lot of times their week comes down to the Burrow Chase connection. And as we saw on Sunday, they did have a huge monster play that really led to both of them having pretty solid days in terms of fantasy purposes. Joe Burrow with a cool 22 points, 23 points. Jamar Chase, 23 points. That was kind of the catalyst for them. Jahmyr Gibbs putting together another great performance. Again, Detroit Lion having a great day. We all, any fantasy manager loved that game. Jahmyr Gibbs putting 2 touchdowns up. And then finally wanted to address DK Metcalf. He was able to have a nice bounce back game after only having 1 catch last week. He was able to go for 7 catches for just under 100 yards, as he was able to also put up a good performance. But for WalllessPluto, as history would tell us, they had to get this win to inch a little bit closer to 500. So if you're getting WalllessPluto next week, watch out, baby.
All right, for Sticky Mistakes on the flip side here, not the greatest of weeks, not that disappointing either. They would have some solid performances that they can build off in the future, but they would come up just short. That obviously is going to affect their playoff seeding, so that was not the outcome they were hoping for. But like I said, still some bright spots to build off of. Sam Howell able to get 28 points for him. 3 touchdowns recorded on that. Running back room looked a lot better this week. James Cook, freshly acquired in a trade, was able to put up 13. Filled in nicely in a spot that was previously a weakness for this team. And Najee Harris, able to get 18. He's been up and down all year, so definitely good to see him find the end zone and contribute. Michael Pittman, able to scrap 14 together on 12 targets. Just kind of scraped together a dirty fantasy performance there. Bucks D did come to play with 25 of their own. If there was a down spot for them, it would be in the middle of the lineup here, especially Pitts and Hubbard. But at this point of the season, I don't think this team's doing any finger pointing. I think they're just trying to move on and recover from this and get ready to go on their playoff run because that's when they need to be playing their best football anyway. All right, moving on to our fourth game of the week. We had Glizz Mafia with a big performance as well, 157 to 142. They were able to defeat yours truly, Texas size 10-4s, and they were able to. Glizz Mafia was able to improve to 7-3.
And Trevor Lawrence tried his best to sell here, as he only put up a whopping 1.5 fantasy points, and as we touched on in the first game, just gifted the 49ers a million turnovers. Thanks, Trevor Lawrence. But Glizz Mafia was able to, luckily for their sake, was able to kind of overcome that. Running backs both played well here as they were able to put up double-digit performances. But this really just kind of comes down to the back end of the lineup. Let's talk about CeeDee Lamb. I saw this week he set an NFL record. I believe the record was 10 or 3 straight games of 10 or more receptions and 150 or more receiving yards. So shout out CeeDee Lamb for doing that, as Cleesby now has 2 receivers this year who have set NFL records in terms of consecutive games of incredible performances. So you love to see that as Glizz Mafia. Also, CeeDee Lamb was able to add a rushing touchdown to his total this week, which was a huge middle finger to Dak Prescott, who Travis was starting. But Glizz Mafia had to love that. Also, Jason Myers here in the special teams department, putting up 5 field goals for the Seattle Seahawks as they were able to squeak out the win against the Commanders. And also Cowboys defense getting, to lick their chops against Tommy DeVito and the New York Football Giants, who have just been abysmal this year, was really kind of what put Glizz Mafia over the edge and allowed them to overcome whatever the hell Trevor Lawrence put out on the field this past Sunday.
Yeah, so for us, we definitely had some bright spots to build off of, but not necessarily the most conductive team game. Dak Prescott did have a whopping 43, but like we just pointed out, he gave a lot of points to CeeDee Lamb, which would directly hurt us, especially that handoff touchdown. And his defense also balled out. So just really not the most useful 43 points I've ever gotten, but it is what it is. Our running back room was very solid this week. McCaffrey and K9 both getting 21. DA was slightly coming back to form. Still doesn't have the greatest quarterback in the world throwing the ball, but he's starting to make plays again, like we've seen in years past. We were a little stuck with depth in the middle here with some bye weeks. Kelsey out. We had Johnny Smith in. He didn't do much. Godwin and Pickens found the starting lineup after the trade we made for Puka Nacua, who was also on bye this week. So we knew we'd be up against it. We did fight hard. We did come up just short. We did think we were going to keep it a little more competitive late, but he did have Josh Jacobs break off some late runs on Sunday Night Football that break this open. And even though we were on the wrong side of this one, this was a very fun matchup for us to follow along with all day long. We would like to tip our hats to Glizz Mafia, one of the toughest teams in the league this year so far. If we had 3 words to describe this team, it would be tough, hard-nosed, physical victim. All right, moving on to our 5th and final game of the week. We have PC Principal skirting out a narrow victory, 139-135 over the Philly Cheekles. And PC Principal has teamed to strike gold, as have the Minnesota Vikings. Both these teams are very happy with the discovery of Josh Dobbs. Able to put up 30 points. He is playing like a top 10 fantasy quarterback so far this year. Kind of out of nowhere, so definitely this team is very happy to see that. Running back room, solid day. Kamara had himself a pretty good day. Just solid support for the team. And then the real story, where did he go? Where's Keenan Allen? Keenan Allen able to get 40 points on 2 touchdowns. Like we said, any Chargers or Lions player was just having himself a field day this week. And then the middle of the lineup would struggle himself a little bit. This team would wrap up Sunday night with a 10-point victory sitting at 139. They were staring down a mean Stephon Diggs with a projected 22 points.
Yeah, so going into Monday night, everything's looking right for the Cheekles. Newly acquired Stephon Diggs, ready to make his mark, get this team a big victory, put them right in the playoff push. And the Bills just, woof, terrible game from them. Stephon Diggs with what looked like to be his worst fantasy outing since the 2020 season. And there's starting to become a little bit of rumblings that has Philly created that relationship with Josh Allen to get Diggs these performances. I don't know what's going on in the back end there, but when you see something like this, you got to wonder if a relationship has been reached out to and tried to be built with a certain Josh Allen manager. So we're gonna have to monitor that in the weeks to come here. But for the Philly Cheekles here, a pretty solid week overall. You got a really nice bounce back performance from Justin Herbert, as you know, he kind of struggled last Sunday night going against the Jets, but he bounced back against the Lions. Jonathan Taylor had himself a pretty solid outing. Garrett Wilson looked really good on Sunday Night Football. David Montgomery, again, a Leon showing out in that Chargers-Lions game, but just came up a little short. And now they're kind of what would have been a really big win to put them kind of in the driver's seat, per se, in terms of the playoff race. Now they're kind of still on the outside looking in and really have to have a big push here at the end of the season.
All right. And with that, we are going to take a look ahead to the Week 11 schedule and hit the standings real quick so everyone knows what kind of action we have as the season starts to wind down here. We got 3 weeks left in the regular season. First matchup, yours truly, Texas has 10 forwards. We're sitting at 5-5. We're holding on to a playoff spot with like our pinky right now. We're taking on Francy Feast. They're sitting at 4-6. Massive week this past week, so we're gonna hope that momentum does not come to face us. Second matchup, FaZe Kev. They've crawled back to 5-5 now. They're taking on Sticky Mistakes. Sticky Mistakes, not the greatest weeks. They're looking to bounce back and get ready for their column run. Philly Cheekles also looking to bounce back now at 5-5 after that heartbreaking loss this past week. They'll be taking on the Cleveland Steamers. Nick, what message do you have for the boys this week?
God, I never thought I would say this. Taylor Swift, can you please come to the Monday Night Football game? The boys need you.
I second that as well.
Yeah.
Fourth matchup, we got Pams sitting at 3-7. We'll see if they're able to turn their luck around at all, taking on the hottest team in the league. PC Principal sitting at 8-2. And then our last matchup, Glizz Mafia at 7-3, taking on WalllessPluto at 4-6. WalllessPluto trying to sneak back into their patented mediocrity bowl place. With that, we'll look at the standings real quick. Glizz Mafia is still holding their 1-game lead on in the Michigan division at 7-3. Seeking Mistakes right behind them at 6-4, and then we Texas has 7-4 sit right behind that 5-5. Francy Feast and WalllessPluto both at 4-6. And in the toilet bowl, and then in the American division, PC Principal has all but clinched the division. They would need a whole bunch of scenarios to play out exactly perfect. But they pretty much got this one wrapped up at 8-2 right now. They got FaZe, Kevin, Philly Cheekles sitting at 5-5 behind them, both currently in the mediocrity bowl, and then Pams and Cleveland Steamers both 3-7. And then before we get off here, we did want to break down some of the trade deadline trades that we had this past week. If I could get to them. So first trade we had, our team, Texas has 7-4s. We made a move to go out and get Puka Nacua, a hot rookie this year, top 10 fantasy receiver so far. He was on his bye week, so that didn't help us this week. We gave up Jacoby Myers and James Cook and a future first. We weren't super happy with having to give all that up. Some very good players in there, but we were very happy with the young Puka Nacua, and especially the fact that we get his RFA rights moving forward. This was just a deal we felt like we could not pass up. Moving on to our second trade, we had a deal in which Cleveland Steamers sent Deontay Johnson to PC Principal. Nick, if you want to give us a breakdown of what you were thinking here.
Yeah, we are very vocal on the fact that Deontay was going to get moved to the highest bidder. We think he's a great player, perfect fit for any team trying to make a championship. PC Principal came calling. We were able to get Zach Charbonnet, a rookie that we really like, future or pick in this upcoming draft, and also Gerald Everett as we try to fill in whenever TJ Hawkinson has to go on by.
All right, and then the third trade we had, Kyron Williams getting sent to Glizz Mafia in exchange for some picks, including Lemp getting his own third-round pick back, which I thought was a little funny. And then fourth, my first-round pick got sent back to Lemp in exchange for Jalen Wild going to Sticky Mistakes. So we definitely have some big moves before the deadline. There's definitely more teams trying to get a championship right now than there are playoff spots based on the trade deadline activity. So we'll see which teams are actually going to squeeze their way in. And yeah, that's pretty much all we have for you guys this week. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Nick, any final thoughts before we get off here?
Nope. Hope everybody has a good week, and we have another exciting week ahead of us.
All right. Like I said, thanks to everyone for tuning in. Hope you guys enjoy the video. Make sure you come back next week for the week 11 recap. And yeah, peace out.